Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep on this TikToker, Ash Trevino.
Oh, yeah, I saw this one come through.
Yeah, you sent me a bunch of stuff too, I think, right? News articles,
Yeah, I sent over a few
social
things.
media posts, even
Court documents even saw some of
court
those.
documents. Like, wow, this is a real rabbit hole we're going down.
It's a lot, and it's a fascinating case. I think it brings up a lot of stuff about internet culture and, when fame and money and all these personal choices kind of like collide in a very, very public way.
Yeah, so get ready, listeners, because this
Yeah.
is Ash Trevino, and we're going to unpack this whole story, how she went from, just a regular TikTok person to like the center of so much online discussion and controversy and all this stuff.
Right.
So first of all, who I asked this person, Ash Trevino?
Well, from what you've sent me, it seems like she's 36, from Texas.
Okay.
And she kind of first got attention on TikTok doing these live streams, and she was really open about her life,
Oh, wow.
relationships, spending habits, kids, the whole nine yards. So it's that openness that's gotten her in trouble, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, I mean, that and some of the choices themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the biggest things people are talking about is that she dates a lot of guys who are in prison,
What?
like incarcerated men, and a lot of them are in for violent crimes. And so she's been called like an inmate hopper, which is,
Inmate hopper.
it's a thing.
Wow, I've never even heard that term before I started looking into all this stuff.
Yeah.
So explain that a little more, like the inmate hopper, and we saw a few different names come up right in the research. Was she dating multiple people at the same time?
It seems like it. And with men convicted of some pretty serious offenses, like one guy for Francisco, he's serving time for 3 murders,
Yeah.
including like a double homicide of 2 teenage girls.
Wait, she was dating someone who was in prison for 3 murders?
Yeah, and not even just dating,
Yeah.
Like she's documenting this whole thing on TikTok. She's going live with him from prison.
Wow.
So it's not like a private thing,
No, it's part of her content,
It's content.
like part of the whole persona.
Totally.
So she's putting it out there that this is like part of her life, and she wants people to know about it.
Exactly.
What are people saying about it? Like, what are the comments and the reaction online to this?
I mean, it's super divisive.
Mm,
You have some people who are really concerned. They're like, what are you doing? This is really bad judgment. Like, what about your kids?
right.
But then you have other people who are like, everyone deserves love.
Oh, God.
Everyone deserves a second chance.
Oh, that's so tricky because it's like, on the one hand, yeah, I mean, people do deserve second chances, but when you're talking about someone who's murdered 3 people,
And the impact on the victims' families.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's so complicated.
It's a really tough one.
And it's not like it was just him either, right? I mean, like from the research, it seemed like she had other relationships.
Yeah, Isaiah, she was actually married to while he was serving time for murder.
Oh my gosh. So it's like she wasn't just dating someone who happened to be in prison. It was like she was actively seeking this out.
It seems that way.
That's what's so strange about this whole thing.
It's what makes it so fascinating and also, honestly, a lot disturbing. It really makes you think, like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What is driving this behavior?
And what about the kids?
What are the implications for her kids?
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, right?
For her audience, even.
The kids, that's something we can't just gloss over here because a lot of what you sent me showed a very troubling picture of like her as a parent.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of concern about neglect
Okay.
and her putting her online presence and spending money on herself above like the basic needs of her kids.
What's an example of that? Like what really stands out from the research that you looked at?
One of the things that really struck me was that her daughters were sleeping on a single air mattress on the floor,
What?
even though she's spending tons of money on designer handbags
Are you serious?
and trips and stuff.
Wow.
This came out on Camille's podcast.
Even Camille's like, whoa.
Yeah, Camille was like, do you guys have beds? And the daughter was just like, no.
Oh my God. It was a
I
moment.
just can't even imagine.
It was really like the mask slipped,
Yeah.
you know?
And she just was like, oh, yeah, whatever.
And she just kind of made excuses,
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm too busy. Or like, I'm too recognizable to go shopping for beds.
Too busy to be a parent. Come on.
Right.
I don't know, man.
It's tough.
And that wasn't the only time. It seemed like she was putting all this drama online above her kids' needs. Like, what about that El Paso incident?
Oh, yeah. The El Paso incident.
That was wild.
That was a whole thing.
So for people listening, let's break this down like what happened in El Paso.
Okay. So it started with this online feud with another TikToker.
Okay.
And Ash is like taunting her, encouraging a fight.
Oh, gosh.
And then she doxes her friend's address during a live stream.
Wait, she doxed someone and were her kids there?
Kids were there the whole time.
Oh, my God.
And then after the whole confrontation,
Yeah.
she drives under the influence with her kids in the car.
And it was all live streamed, the whole thing.
So not only is she like making these reckless choices, but she's broadcasting it
To her followers.
to all these people who are probably young and impressionable.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
And that's where I think,
Yeah.
it goes beyond just bad decisions
Right.
to like exploitation.
It's not just like a one-time thing.
Right.
This is like a pattern of her using situations.
And her kids' vulnerability.
Views for donations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started. We still have so much more to unpack, like the whole Camille podcast thing.
Yeah.
And this relationship with a 19-year-old named Santos.
Oh, yeah.
And her using her kids' grief for attention. It's a lot.
Stay with us because this deep dive is just getting started.
It's a lot to take in.
We'll be back in a minute to unpack all the rest of the stuff you sent us about Ash Trevino. All right, so we're back and ready to go even deeper into the world of Ash Trevino. And before the break, we were talking about how she seems to use these vulnerable situations to get attention online, maybe even to make money off of it, you know?
Right. And I think that pattern of behavior really comes through when you look at this whole thing with Santos, this 19-year-old that she met online.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, this is what came up on Camille's podcast, right?
Mm-mm.
And even Camille was like...
Even Camille was a little bit shocked
Yeah.
by the details.
So Ash basically admitted that she had like a sexual relationship
Yeah, on 2 separate occasions.
with this guy knowing he was 19.
Knowing he was 19.
Okay, so she's 36.
Uh-huh.
He's 19. And on top of that, she was like openly flirting with him online.
Yeah, and it was often pretty suggestive.
Sometimes even with her teenage daughter there.
Yeah, according to the sources. Yeah,
It's just so messed up.
it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And she was bragging about their relationship on her live streams,
Oh my God.
making all these jokes and references to their intimacy.
This is like a whole power dynamic thing too. It's like
Yeah, totally.
exploitation, grooming behavior. Like all this stuff is coming up for me.
Yeah, it's really troubling. And to make things even more complicated, Santos has denied all of this.
What?
Yeah, he's like, oh, no, we were just joking around. Nothing ever happened.
So now we have conflicting accounts. We have this massive age gap.
Yeah.
We have this pattern of Ash, like, using stuff for attention online. It's like, who do you even believe at this point?
Right. It's like, how can you even tell what's real and what's fake?
It really makes you think about, like, everything you see online, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's a good reminder to be, like, skeptical with
Okay.
people online, especially when they're trying to get famous and make money off of this stuff.
And you have to ask questions.
Yeah.
Look at things from different perspectives and be really wary of these narratives that seem too good to be true.
Yeah.
Or that really lean into exploiting vulnerable situations for attention.
Okay, so where does this leave Ash? Like, I mean, she's obviously gotten a lot of backlash online, but it seems like she still has all these fans and supporters who are, like, defending her no matter what.
I know, it's wild, right? It's like this case study in how strong parasocial relationships can be and how people online can build these communities.
Yeah.
Even when the person they're following is doing some pretty messed up stuff.
You keep saying parasocial relationship. Explain that to me.
Okay, so basically a parasocial relationship is this one-sided bond that a person develops with a media figure, like a celebrity or a influencer.
So in this case, it's Ash Trevino.
Exactly. And they feel like they know this person.
Okay.
They think they're friends, even though it's not actually a two-way street.
So they might feel like they know Ash personally.
Yeah.
Even though all they know is what she posts online.
Right, and that can lead to them being really loyal and protective.
Even if she's doing stuff that's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does that explain why these people are, like, sticking by her even when all the stuff is coming out?
I think for some people, it's like they can't admit they were wrong.
Oh, like cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. They've spent so much time and energy following her.
Invested in this relationship.
Yeah. And it's easier to just be like, oh, no, she's not that bad.
Than to be like, oh my God, I've been supporting someone who's terrible.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then for other people, I think they genuinely believe that they know the real Ash.
Okay.
Like, they think the media is being mean to her.
They're like, oh no, this is all fake news.
Yeah. And they're like, I know her. She's a good person.
This is tough.
It's complicated.
It really is.
It makes you think about these online relationships
Yeah.
and how people can manipulate and exploit others.
And how ideas can spread that are really harmful.
Totally.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is. We have to be careful out there.
Yeah, think critically, be media literate.
Be skeptical.
Don't just believe everything you see.
especially with influencers.
Okay, so what's the takeaway here for our listeners? Like, what should people keep in mind when they're, scrolling through TikTok and seeing all these influencers?
I think the biggest thing is just to remember that people are trying to manipulate you online.
Yeah.
They're trying to create this persona to get you to follow them and spend money.
So don't get sucked in.
Exactly what you see is not always real.
Okay.
Be a critical consumer. Think for yourself.
Yeah, question everything.
And don't forget that these are real people.
With real lives.
And their actions have consequences.
This whole deep dive into Ash Trevino has been crazy.
It really has.
It's like, where does entertainment end and exploitation begin?
Right. And who's responsible for drawing those lines?
Yeah.
That's a lot to think about.
So much to think about, but there's one more thing we have to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
This is maybe the most disturbing part of this whole story. How Ash has used her children's grief, especially after their dad died, to get attention and money online.
Oh, man. That's tough.
Yeah, this is a really sensitive topic.
It is.
So for everyone listening, let's be respectful as we talk about this. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, so we're back, and this is it. This is where we have to talk about the really hard stuff. With Ash Trevino, like, we've been going through all this stuff, and it's been wild, but this is maybe the worst part of it all.
Yeah, you're right. This is where it gets really, really heavy.
Yeah, so how she's used her kids' grief to get attention and make money online.
Yeah, especially after their dad died.
This is just awful. I mean, this is a really sensitive topic, so for everyone listening, let's try to be respectful here. Okay.
Of course.
So the sources that you guys sent in mentioned that her kids lost their dad to leukemia a few years ago.
Right.
And it's just so sad because instead of protecting her kids, during this horrible time, she basically brought their grief onto her platform.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like, oh, they're sad, let's talk about this. It was like using it as content.
Like she was making content out of it.
For her live streams.
Give me an example. Like, what kind of stuff was she doing?
Well, there's a bunch of videos of her crying on cue, talking about really personal stuff about their dad's illness and death.
Oh, gosh.
And she would even encourage her kids to talk about their feelings on camera.
No, it's like she was making a spectacle of their pain.
Exactly. And, kids grieve so differently than adults.
Of course.
They don't always understand what's going on, and they shouldn't have to perform their grief for a bunch of strangers online.
It's just not, right?
No, it's not.
There's this one thing that I read that I can't get out of my head.
What's that?
She was live streaming herself dancing
Oh, no.
to this song about baby daddy while her kid's dad's funeral was happening.
I remember that.
Like, are you kidding me?
I think that was when a lot of people, even her fans, were like, okay, this is too far.
It's too far.
This is messed up.
How can you defend this?
Yeah, it was like she was just completely disregarding her kids' feelings.
It was all about her.
And her online persona.
Those poor kids, watching their mom exploit their dad's death for views and likes.
It's just heartbreaking.
What do you think this is going to do to them long term?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely not a healthy environment
Right.
to grow up in. I mean, being exposed to that kind of emotional exploitation,
Yeah.
it can really mess with your self-esteem, your ability to trust people.
Boundaries.
Yeah, knowing what's okay and what's not.
And it's not just her kids, it's all the people watching her too.
Yeah, a lot of them are young and impressionable.
Right. They're seeing this and thinking, oh, this is normal.
This is how you treat people.
It's okay to use other people's pain for your own benefit.
It's a dangerous message to send.
This makes me wonder about TikTok. Shouldn't they be doing more to stop this?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there needs to be more protection for vulnerable users, especially kids.
Yeah, more rules about what kind of content is allowed.
Definitely.
It's complicated, but it's something we have to figure out. We can't just let this happen.
Kids' mental health and emotional well-being are more important than online entertainment or money.
Okay, so what can we do? As regular people, how can we push back against this?
I think the first step is awareness,
Yeah.
recognizing that this is a problem and calling it out when we see it. And then there are organizations that are fighting to protect kids online. You can support them.
Donate.
Yeah, donate, volunteer, spread the word. Exactly. And I think we also need to look at ourselves,
What do you mean?
who are we supporting online?
Oh, are we following people who do this kind of stuff?
Yeah, and are we liking and sharing content that's exploiting kids?
That's a good point.
We all have a part to play in making the internet a better place.
So this is it. This is the end of our deep dive into Ash Trevino.
Wild ride, right?
There's been a lot.
A lot to process.
So what are the big takeaways here for everyone listening?
I think the biggest one is that the internet can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
It can bring people together, but it can also be used to hurt people.
Especially kids.
Yeah, and we have to remember that the people we see online are real people.
Right.
Their actions have real-world consequences.
And we all have a responsibility to be careful,
To think
to
critically,
protect each other.
and to make the internet a safer and kinder place.
This has been heavy but important.
Definitely.
Thank you for going down this rabbit hole with us.
And for sending us all this information.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a whole new topic.
See you then.